A lot of email tutorials and courses talk about strategies to grow your email list. And clearly, growth is important, but there's another part that doesn't get talked about as much, and that's what we're going to cover today. And that is, what do you do with that list? Because not everybody on the list has the same interests and needs. They're related, but they're a little bit separate. So the question I have for you is, are you sending the same email to everybody on your list? Let me know in the comments below, because I'm genuinely curious. But here's my recommendation. I think you want to break down what the interests are of those folks and send them targeted emails based on those interest groups. So you're going to have some people who are leads, some people who are customers, and you want to make certain that they're getting the right message, because what you send to a lead that you're trying to convert to a customer is not the same thing that you would send to a customer who's already bought from you. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Before we get into that, I've got something else that I want to offer you, and that is a free video course. It's called The Website Strategy. I'll put the link up here and it'll be in the description down below. I'll walk you through 5 steps of what you can do to create a high converting website. So whether you already have a website or you need to build a new one, this is going to help you out. And here's the idea. You want to build a trusted business. You want to get inside the mindset of your potential customers. You want to know what resources work best for a WordPress website. And you want to be able to assemble that website. And finally, we're going to talk about how to drive and convert. So it's a video course. It's absolutely free. So you can get that at suburbiapress.com, the website strategy. As I said, I'll have a link to that below. All right, let's go ahead. And I'm in a ConvertKit dashboard. This is actually for my photography site. It's one that I've recently restored from ConvertKit because I was using another tool called Fluent CRM, and I haven't imported those folks in here. So this is kind of leftover. So you may see a few things in here that don't make any sense, but don't worry about it. We're only going to talk about the stuff that does. Let's talk about first, who are the people that are on your list? At a bare minimum, you're probably going to have leads, people that you want to sell something to them, and you're going to have customers, people who have you previously sold something to them. What else are you going to have? Well, you might have an abandoned cart sequence. So in that case, people who have provided their email in your shopping cart but didn't commit to buy, they're kind of a special case. They didn't actually opt in to get marketing email messages, but yet you can still send them an abandoned cart email sequence, and then you can try to convert them over to your list, or you can try to convert them to a sale, obviously, is the purpose of an abandoned cart sequence. And we're going to start off with that, but I want to walk you through the things that you need in whatever email system that you're working with so you can build up to send the right emails to the right customers. So one of the first things we want to do is I'm going to come over here to grow in subscribers. That's where ConvertKit puts its tags. And you'll see that there are segments, there are tags. What we want to do is we want to create tags, and we want to talk about who are the kind of people that we want to have. So we're going to have leads, customers, and we're going to have people who have abandoned cart. So let's say that this is for Suburbia Press. I kind of like to start off with SP. And there's going to be a lead. I'm going to copy this. And you see right over there, SP lead. And we're going to create another tag. We'll make this one customer. And one more for the abandoned cart. All right, so now that we've talked about that, we've got a tag for each of them. One of the things that I like to do is to build a list, or as they call it in ConvertKit, a segment. And it's very simple. We're going to go to create a segment, and let's just call it the same thing, SP lead. Only this time it's going to be plural because there's going to be a number of them in there. And they're going to match all the same criteria. So you can do it if they don't match anything, so none, all, or any of the criteria. But we're going to make this pretty simple. And in ConvertKit, you would go down to subscribe to tags, and then you type in what you want it to be. And this is why I like starting off with SP or other things that I'll show you later on here. You can go ahead and just very easily find what you're looking for. And then you add a filter. And now when you want to send email messages, You don't have to necessarily go through that same thing to try and find the tag that you want to send them to. You just simply have a segment that you can say, send it to SP leads. So let's do the same thing for the other ones. And let's create one for the abandoned cart. All right, so we've identified the kind of people that are going to be on our list. You may want to expand upon this. You may want to have some profile or history information that tells you about their interest or the products or services that they've bought. So you can break down customers to they bought this course or joined your membership or bought a certain product. If that's the case, go ahead and do that because there may be opportunities to upsell them to something else. For example, maybe the people who bought your course want to continue making progress and they join your membership. That's an opportunity for you there. So think about that as far as how you want to segment things. Likewise, on your leads, well, what kind of lead are they? Are they interested in certain things? Are they interested in email marketing? Are they interested in how to build a website? Do they want to improve their site performance? Whatever it's going to be that you can offer them, then you probably want to build some tags like that and build some segments so that you can email them directly. So once you've got that in mind, what we're going to end up doing is we want to send email sequences to these folks. And you can see I've got a number of sequences over here. And the way that you get those sequences started is going to be through an automation. So these visual automations are basically little workflows. You can see on some of these, they just kind of start at the top. They're waiting for an event and they go on down and trigger, and they'll start off the sequence and you can monitor their progress by use of tags, which means that the very first thing we really need to do is add some more tags. So I'm going back to subscribers, and it's funny how often that adding tags is really the way to make certain that you're getting everything else set. There are other things that you can trigger on. So for example, in ConvertKit, you can trigger on if they've been added or removed from a tag. You can trigger on if they've joined through a certain form or opt-in form that you have, or if they purchased a product using ConvertKit Commerce. Your email system will probably have different things, but I find that tags are usually the most versatile way of not only starting an automation, but ending it to kick off another automation. You don't want to build automations or workflows that have too much stuff in them because usually that's where something breaks down. You want to keep those automations small and tight. They should do one real thing. And then if they need to, they can kick off something else. So let's start off with how to create a tag for automations. There are three things that I like to put in there. I like to have a tag that begins with start, which is what they're going to be waiting for inside the automation. It'll kick off when someone gets assigned a start tag. I like a status tag, which tells me who is inside of a given automation. I add that at the beginning and I remove it at the end. So it's only for the duration of the automation. And then I add a history tag, which gives me information for each subscriber that's gone through that automation. And I know, okay, this is part of their experience with me. So it's kind of a little bit of a customer relationship thing where I've got metadata that I'm collecting about them. So it's really very simple. And we're going to do the abandoned cart. So I'm going to start off with start, abandoned cart. And I'm not going to mention what the product is here, other than I'll just call it product demo, because you may have multiple products. And I'm going to copy this. But the idea is, what is the purpose of it? What is it describing? In other words, what kind of thing is it going to be about? Is it going to be a start for your abandoned cart sequence? Is it going to be a start for your nurture sequence for your leads? Or is it going to be follow-up sales for your products? Whatever that is, it doesn't have to be exactly what I'm doing here, but breaking it down this way, you can find all of your start tags very easily, all of your status and all of your history if you need to search for them. And then you can also search for all of your abandoned carts or all of your products by name. Whatever it is that you want, breaking it up this way just makes it easy to organize and find things later on. So I'm going to save that. And we're going to do the same thing for the status and the history. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in here and I'm going to change this to status. And one more time, I'm going to create a tag, history. So I have not built segments for those tags. And at this point, I don't need to. That may be something that you want to do later on, but having the tags makes it easy to create segments if you want to email people that are in a certain automation or automation sequence. But let's go ahead, and we know that we want to send a sequence. We can build that out first, or we can build it in our automation. But let's go ahead and start a sequence. And we're going to create a new sequence. I'll use like my default template here. And we'll just change this to abandoned cart. And that way we know what it's about. So you've got a few things you can do here. Your first one, probably you don't want to send immediately. If you change this to 0, it'll send immediately. But let's say an hour after they abandon the cart, that's when I want to sell it. So you might start off with something simple like, did you forget something? And that's just a quick reminder. So we're not going to write out all the text here. I'm going to show you the structure of how this is going to work. And once you've written that and you're ready for this to go, you just go ahead and make certain that it's enabled and published. Then you can add another email. And this one, I'm going to send a day later. And that's the default with ConvertKit. But again, you can change this to how many days or how many hours you want to wait. And you can choose which days of the week it's allowed to go out on. Since this one, you don't know when they're going to abandon the cart and what the sequence is going to be, I've chose to leave all of those active. So now I'm going to have one here where we talk about the benefits. And I'm just going to put that in here as a subject line. What you want to do in something like this is you want to give them some information about why does this help them? Why is it something that they want? How does it help them? What does it do for them? Or more importantly, what does it make possible for them? And you want to keep it brief, but just kind of say, hey, this is really good for you. And the reason we can do that is because if they've went so far as to at least put their email address in the checkout cart, they're thinking about it, which tells me that they've got a problem. Well, you should know what problem your product or service solves. So you want to talk about the benefits and really not the features. You don't want to talk about, my course has so many videos and so many hours of something like that. You want to say, my course helps you do X, Y, Z so that you can do the things that they want to do. How does it benefit them? That's what you want to put in here. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to click publish. Another idea that you could use in an abandoned cart sequence is use some scarcity. And again, we won't come up with a title over here. So there are different ways that you can use scarcity. You could offer a coupon that is only good for a limited time. So for example, if you buy within the next day or so, you can get a 25% discount. And maybe it's not a day, maybe it's a week, maybe it's 3 days, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do. Another way of doing scarcity is, let's say that you have a membership and you don't have the cart open all the time. You go through different launches. And the same thing can happen with courses. You launch at certain times, and if they don't make that window, then they miss out until the next launch. For some people, that could be a year away. So you kind of want to use some scarcity. Let them know that there is a time parameter that if they don't buy a certain time, they miss out on something. So that's what you're going to do here. And then if that doesn't work, usually 3 is what I'll use. I'll add one more. And this is for the people who did not buy. And I'll just ask them, would you like free tips? And it's about is whatever is really compelling them. And I'm just going to say a demo product here because I don't know what the demo product is about. And they probably wouldn't want to know more about your product, but they might want to know more about the problems that your product or service can solve. And that's where you're going to put them on your nurture list. So the idea is that we're going to publish this, and we've only got 4 emails here. You're trying to convince them to buy. If they buy, you want to stop this sequence. You don't want them to get down to this point. If they don't buy, you want to give them an option here. Let's say we add a button. And you want to give them an option here to get on or opt into your email list to become a lead. And you can just do that. And whenever I do buttons, I always like to bold it, excuse me, just so it stands out a little bit more. Now, there's a couple things. This is going to be specific to ConvertKit. What you want to do is you want to put a link here, which means you're going to need a place where they go, a website, a URL or something that confirms their action if they click this, but also it's going to add a tag. And in ConvertKit, you can see there's a link over here, but for a button, you really want to go over to Styles. And I'm only going to use a hashtag right now. And we're going to click on this over here. So add a tag. And well, what do we want them to do? We want to add them to our leads. So now if they click that, they become a lead, and then they get all the little benefits. So they get put on that segment. This is an opt-in. Remember, for someone who's abandoned the cart, they have not gone through a form. They haven't checked a box. They haven't said, I agree to anything yet. So you want to segment your segment here, really. There are people in your abandoned cart sequence who are going to either purchase, or they're going to opt in for more information, or they're going to not do any of the above. And the people in that last group are the ones that you cannot email to because you don't have their permission or consent to send them marketing email messages. So let's go ahead and we'll publish the changes. And that's why I like to follow up with, how can I keep them on my email list? If I can't make them a customer, I want to make them a lead. And that's really the sequence for an abandoned cart. We can do different sequences for nurturing leads. We can do different sequences for nurturing customers. And maybe sometimes you'll have profile information that someone is interested in email marketing. Maybe you've got a product launch coming up at some point. Those are things that people who aren't already customers of that product, you might put up a sequence for them. But this is really what a sequence looks like. It is simply a collection of emails about a specific function for your business, but you want to show them the benefits for them. And last one here, like I said, you want to make some kind of conversion. Each of these emails is going to have a call to action. You're going to send them to your sales page. You're going to send them to your checkout page. So every single one of these, you're going to have a call to action to make that sale. And if you couldn't make the sale, well, at the end, you didn't make the sale, but you might be able to convert them to being a lead. So everything about this is about making a conversion. All right, so let's go over to automate. And we'll select visual automations. We're going to create a new automation. And I'm going to go with an empty one. There are a lot of things on here, and I'm not going to go run through those. There's even an abandoned cart sequence down here, but it's not quite what we're looking for. So I'm going to start building. And the first thing I want to do is look for someone who's added to a tag. And SP abandoned cart. So I probably should have the product name after that, but that's the event. So how do they get that tag in the first place? That's something that you're going to do probably based upon your shopping cart service. In my case, I use ThriveCart. And inside of ThriveCart, they have a trigger for an abandoned cart. They also have an integration that works with ConvertKit and many other email service providers. So when someone abandons a cart, they will communicate with your email service provider, and you can add a tag that says, hey, this person had an abandoned cart for this product. So that's what happened here is I'm getting this tag sent over from my shopping cart service. Very important that you've got something that creates the tag. If you can't create the tag, then you don't have anything really to kick off. And I thought that you'd be able to do this with products in the earn section over here. You'll see there's products that you can do, like if you sell something through ConvertKit. It's nice that they have that there, but surprisingly, they do not have an abandoned cart trigger where you can update a tag inside of their own product, which is why I'm using ThriveCart, or other people use SamCart or different shopping carts. So you want to make certain that when you're selling something, if you want to use an abandoned cart sequence to try to either recover the sale that could have been lost or get somebody on your nurture list as a lead, that's an important thing. So you can set up an abandoned cart sequence. So what's the first thing I do after I kick off an automation with a tag? Well, I remove that tag so there's no chance of them getting started up again. Because let's face it, once they've been through this automation, they don't need to go through again, and therefore they don't need to have that tag. What they do need, though, is maybe a little bit of history and status that they're in the automation. So I'm going to create 2 more tags here. So I'm going to add a tag that we've already talked about, status. Then I'm going to add another tag that we've talked about, which is the history tag. All right, so just make sure I haven't lost you. We're waiting for this tag, which is going to trigger the event that starts the automation. I remove that tag right away so it doesn't trigger the automation more than once. I start status, which means that while they are in this automation, until they get to the end of it and I remove that status tag, I can search for anybody who has this status tag and see who's working through this particular automation and the sequence that's involved. And the history is a permanent record that I leave in their subscriber panel, so I know who's done what with my system. So the next thing to do is to come down here and put them in an email sequence, which we've done, and that is our abandoned cart. All right, so we've gotten this far. We've added some tags. We've got them started off in the email sequence. They're going to get the first one an hour after they've abandoned the cart, give or take, depending on how long it takes your shopping cart to send the signal over to ConvertKit or whatever email system you're using. And then it's got a few days that it's going to drip things out. What happens if they make a purchase? Well, you don't want them to continue getting the rest of the email messages. So you need a way to stop their progress in the sequence. Inside of ConvertKit, that is an event. And what we want to do is product purchase over here will only work if they have if you're using the ConvertKit commerce system. What I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to look for another tag. And let's say that I don't have one here, but we'll make a history tag. So I can create a new tag quickly and easily from inside the automation. If you forgot somehow to add it beforehand, ConvertKit makes it easy for you to go ahead and create it. With some other systems I've used, I've got to stop building the automation. I've got to go back to the tags, build the tag, then I've got to come back to the automation and then do it. So this is actually a very nice feature. So I'm going to create that tag and add the event. Inside of ConvertKit, this event, they say it pulls you forward. In other words, you can see this thing here where it says jump to this point when history purchase demo product tag is added to the subscriber. When it jumps to this point, it stops that email sequence. So however many emails they've gotten, they're not going to get any more. If they go through all of the emails in the sequence, they may come down here, but this won't fire because it doesn't have the tag. So that's why the tag is really important and why I like using tags. So if they're getting in here and I succeed, I make a purchase, that's great. I tag them that they've made the purchase, and now we cancel the rest of the email sequences. There's no point in sending a follow-up abandoned cart email to someone who's made a purchase. And now we've got 2 points here, and we need to do a condition. So this is going to be also based on tags, and I'm going to do a yes, no. So we're going to find out on history, did they make a purchase? And it kind of looks like this. So if they made a purchase, you probably want to add some more tags. And if they didn't make a purchase, you may want to go all the way down. And actually, I'm going to come down here to the bottom before I put this yes, no information here. And I want to remove the status tag because we're getting down to the end of the workflow. And so remove status. That's the last thing that's going to happen here. You take them out of that. So when you go look at, the tag and see who's got this status that they're active in an automation at one point, it's the last thing before the end of automation. So what am I going to do if they purchased this demo tag? Do I want to send them to another one? So, or if they didn't do anything, do I want to get them on my leads? This is where you come up with different events and based upon how things work. In this case, if they're going to be a lead, I'm not going to jump over here because they're not going to have this particular tag. What happens is that button that we put inside of the last email is going to add a tag. It's going to kick off a different automation to get them welcomed into your list and then onto your nurture list. So we don't need to do that here. What we want to do is, give them some tags for if they bought a product. And this is where you need to think about, what is your workflow if they bought a product? Do you have an automatic welcome email? Well, you probably do, because that's going to be a different automation that's going to welcome them. And now you want to add them to a tag. And that's going to be back over to, now they are a customer, and you're going to add that action. Over here, you don't want to add lead because, well, they don't have this tag and they don't become a lead automatically because they were an abandoned cart person. So if they come through and they don't do anything else and the sequence, gets done, well, then that's just a fact that you don't contact those folks anymore. So you might want to do a different condition, like if they don't have, if they're not a customer or they're not a customer who's purchased something, maybe then you want to come up and say, put them with a tag like do not contact. Remember, you don't have consent. So let's say any actions you want to do here, you might want to add them to another sequence, but I don't add sequences within, or more than one sequence within an automation. What I do is I give them the customer. All right, so we've come down and we've made decisions based upon whether they have made a purchase or not. And the only point of this automation is to start up the abandoned cart sequence. And if they made a purchase, to pull them out of it. Now, what are you going to do next? Well, if they've got this history tag, you're going to have a different automation that's going to welcome them, that's going to give them other tags, that's going to give them other sequences, maybe grant access to, if it's a course, where's your course portal going to be located? All those things are going to happen elsewhere. All you really want to concentrate on for this sequence is what to do if they became a customer. If you wanted to start up a customer welcome sequence, I would do that right here. And again, I would go through and make another start tag rather than starting the sequence. And I'll explain why in just a moment. So what happens with this tag is we're going to use this start to kick off a different automation that manages the welcome sequence. So why don't I kick off the sequence here? It's really very simple. Let me show you something within inside of a subscriber. So we've got all of this. We want to make certain that it is live. It's on. Same thing we did when we had to make certain that we published all of those emails in the sequence. You want to make certain that your automation is live. People will ask me, it's like, I did all the things you said. I said, did you turn it on? Oh. It's one of those little things that'll catch you every once in a while. So turn it on. And after you're done with it, you want to make certain that you are basically testing it out. So give it a name and it'll save everything and we'll go back over here. So there is our SP abandoned cart sequence. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. So I told you I was going to show you why you don't necessarily want to look for starting a sequence or more than one sequence inside of a sequence. So let's see if I can find one of my email addresses. Let's go with this one. So this one hasn't been confirmed, but you'll see that there are automation sequences and forms for every subscriber. If you click on them, you can see if there are automations in. If they do have an automation running, it will show you that it's active and it will show you how many days it's been running. The same thing with sequences. I think that it's best to keep these very simple. So how long has this automation been running? If you've got a sequence that goes on for days and days, weeks, even months, that automation is going to be running. And then you're going to find people that are in your status for that full period of time. But what if you just want to know, are they in the first sequence or are they on the second sequence? Did they get to the second sequence? It's easier if those things are separate. That's why I like using a tag to kick things off. And if you notice at the end, we created a tag so that we could create yet another automation. So maybe that goes to something else that kicks off a welcome sequence. It lets you know what the history is there. But that is really what this process is. You can have an automation that starts, does something, gives you an answer, and then kicks off another automation. So you can start off with an abandoned cart that maybe you get somebody to become a lead, give them a sequence for that. They're in an automation for that. And then they buy something, you pull them out of that sequence, and you start them all over by giving them a tag that now they're customers, and they go into yet another automation and sequence. And that's how you move people through your system. And during this time, you can collect information. You saw when I put a button in there that you can add a tag to them. Well, those tags could be like profile information about their interests. So you get maybe history or profile as a start, and then interest in whatever it is. You can do this for your own products and services. You can do this for affiliate marketing. You can do this just to know what topics that they want to know about. And it's very easy to do in most email marketing systems. So that is quickly how you're going to be able to set up your segments so that you're sending the right email message to people on your list who have different needs and have been in different stations. So we've talked about abandoned cart. We talked about leads, people who have opted in one way or the other. And we talk about customers, people who have purchased from you. So you can expand on that for different interests, different products that you've sold to them. And that is the way that you engage people to send the right email message to them at the right time. Thank you very much for watching to the end. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget, I've got a freebie for you. It is a course that'll tell you the website strategy you need to make a profitable WordPress website. As usual, if you like this video, please go ahead, click the like button. That tells the YouTube overlords we did something right. They'll share this with more folks. And until the next time, I'll see you in the next video.